When I was 8, I was outside playing and I overheard some kids talking about things I didn't really understand. I was curious, so I went home and I looked up some of the words I'd heard them saying, and I couldn't stop for 2 years.
My son had been playing with some children from the neighborhood, and one of the boys had an iPad that he'd been given as a gift and showed him porn. Immediately he came and told me what happened. We found out that he'd been showing this to several of the children, but the others were too embarrassed to tell their parents. It was then that I realized it's not a matter of if your child will see porn, but when. I knew that because we had covenant eyes and had talked to him about the dangers online, that he was prepared for this.
I wish we had covenant eyes before Emma was exposed, so we would have known about her curiosity sooner.
I have friends now who are struggling, and I think they would really benefit from Covenant Eyes as well.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Karen with Covenant Eyes, and we're going to run through the 5 things you can do now to protect and prepare your children for exposure to pornography. First, you need to understand the enemy. 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour." We need to understand that the porn industry seeks to get the minds and the hearts of our children. During the COVID-19 crisis, we've seen headline after headline in the news about how big porn is seeking to capitalize on this pandemic by giving free memberships to people all over the globe. We also see organizations like Teen Vogue and Snapchat urging teens to send sexually explicit text messages during the COVID-19 crisis. Obviously, these things as a parent are extremely upsetting, but these messages are coming across all sorts of media channels to our children and to adults all over the globe. The second thing we need to do is overcome our fear. A lot of parents are frightened to talk about the topic of pornography because they fear they don't know enough about it. They don't know enough because no one ever talked to them about pornography or biblical sexuality. So there's a lot of fear and we hold back from having these important conversations. The other thing is that we fear that if we talk about pornography to a 9-year-old, we may give them ideas so that they go out and seek out porn. Unfortunately, if we look at the statistics, the average age of exposure is 9 years old. So whether they stumble across pornography while doing homework online, or if it's at school or a friend's house in the neighborhood, chances are they're going to be exposed. So you're not giving them ideas when you talk about it. You're preparing them to know what to do when they see it or are exposed to it. The other fear that we see from parents is a fear that we ourselves are bad examples because of our own sexual brokenness, either our current sexual brokenness or maybe from our past. Remember Joshua 1:9, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Let's keep that scripture in mind. Let's overcome our fear, and let's know that talking about this issue is important, and we need to step out of the darkness and have these conversations with our children. The third thing that we can do is understand the dangers of pornography. Sometimes people don't understand the addictive nature of pornography. Covenant Eyes has several videos outlining how the brain is addicted to things like pornography, just as it is to drugs and alcohol, and how by watching pornography, we're building neural pathways in the brain. And over time, those neural pathways become stronger and stronger, and that addiction is harder to break. So making sure that you understand that it's not just experimentation by watching pornography or something that kids do and will grow out of it. It's a very dangerous and possibly addictive behavior that can haunt them for the rest of their lives. The other thing that we need to understand about pornography is that it's extremely violent and degrading. It leads to violence against men and women. It fuels the sex trafficking industry and abuse against children. We really must understand that pornography is a social ill that is wreaking havoc on our world. It also develops unhealthy attitudes towards sex and unrealistic expectations. In addition, it fuels sex abuse against children. These items were all courtesy of Protect Young Minds, which is an organization that we strongly encourage you to check out at protectyoungminds.com. The fourth thing you can do is make conversations routine, especially during COVID-19 when we have lots of extra time to spend with our children. There is no better time to start having these conversations, especially with the increased use of technology during the quarantine. The world is not ashamed to speak about sexuality to your kids. And if we remain quiet, the world will fill that void. We must practice our conversations because if you're like me as a parent, this was a very awkward conversation to have. It wasn't something that I was prepared for. But if you work with other parents or your spouse to practice these conversations before you have them, it really helps make them much easier. When a teen feels guilty or anxiety about seeing inappropriate content, they're going to be afraid of how you're going to react. So if you practice these conversations ahead of time, you'll be able to better control how you react when you hear things from your children. Remember, kids want to know that you're mature enough to handle this. And the fifth and final tip for today is practice internet best practices in your home. Develop a technology agreement. Remember, technology is just part of our lives now, so we need to have a plan on how we deal with technology in our homes. You need to have a plan. Do cell phones stay out of the bedrooms? We strongly encourage that, but write it down. Have a conversation with your kids so expectations are clear. The goal of developing a technology agreement is to keep everyone on the same page. And you want to be able to teach your children how to use the internet wisely, not just put up barriers. You want to prepare them so that they can become responsible adults. The other thing we strongly encourage you to do is stay in the know. Ignorance is not bliss when it comes to technology. We need to stay one step ahead, and there are organizations that help us do that in timely and efficient ways, because we all know that everyone is very, very busy. An organization called Access does a phenomenal job of going out into culture and reviewing some of the most popular trends, whether it's social media apps, influencers, or other Hollywood stars. They go out and really analyze, review, and then offer you a summary of what the content or the music or the lyrics or the video game really is trying to communicate to your children. They also do a good job of giving you discussion guides so that you can talk to your children about these different things. A couple other sites that we strongly recommend: Common Sense Media, Plugged In Movie Review, and then of course for your videos and streaming, VidAngel is a great tool as well. The other most important element of practicing internet safety is implementing accountability. Ultimately, we want to train our children to be responsible internet users. And by using Covenant Eyes and walking in accountability as a family, you develop deeper conversations, you build trust, and you have resilient, strong, internet-ready children. So work with a local representative who can help you get these items in place.